passionate about helping people around the world, learning to how to become great leaders and lead teams in ways that help them constantly learn from one another and from themselves. An internationally recognized leadership coach, consultant, author, and professional speaker with over 20 years of experience in supporting change and improvement in organizations across a range of industry, including healthcare, academia, research, government, startups, and biotechs. In 2013, launched KBJ Anderson Consulting to work with leaders at all levels and organizations of all sizes to connect and align their purpose, process, and practices to achieve higher levels of performance. She also came up with a new book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, Lessons from Toyota Leader Isao Yoshino on a lifetime continuous learning. That will be published in July 2020. She also holds BA with honors on Stanford University and was a Fulbright scholar in Australia, where she received her master's degree in public health from Sydney University. She lives in San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, 2 sons, and nearly a dozen chickens and hundreds of Daruma dolls. Wow, I'm so happy to announce you guys that our guest today is Katie Anderson. Katie, welcome to the show, and thanks again a lot for being with us today.
Thank you, Victor. I'm really thrilled to be here and to have the conversation with you and explore my career journey and share some of the things that I've learned along the pathway.
Awesome, thank you. So guys, before we jump in, I just want to reinforce the objective of this show. The Journey is the new show of Carreira Talks. The aim of this series is to share the journey of great leaders, share big decisions, main learnings, insights in career management, and advice for you guys who just are the beginning your careers. I hope you enjoy this awesome conversations that I'm anxious to have. Let's begin. The first question here. Can you share with us your own journey? How did you get here?
So it wasn't a linear journey, but when I look backwards now on the choices that I made and different opportunities I took, there was some common elements that make sense to how I ended up for what I'm doing right now, which is having my own consulting practice where I'm a coach and consultant, and now book author to people, and I lead trips to Japan. And I'll tell you the story backwards, but it's all connected to learning, to being international around the world, and to helping people become their better selves. And that's really been the commonality across my career. So when I was in university many years ago, I thought that I was going to become a university professor. I was really passionate about healthcare and healthcare policy, looking at global healthcare. And so out of college, out of university, I took a role as a research associate at the University of California, San Francisco, and worked in health policy research for 2.5 years. And what I really loved about that was the academic element of research and contributing to, I would say the broader discourse. I don't know if that's too complicated of a word, but broader knowledge for the world. But what was missing for me was the direct connection with people. The things that I enjoyed were going to conferences and talking to people and sharing knowledge. I've always been an international person, though. In university, I'd studied in Spain. And then after university, before the research job, I moved to London for a year. And when I was in high school, I'd done an exchange program to the Dominican Republic. So I still had that pull inside of me, and I applied for a Fulbright scholarship and I was awarded it, which was really exciting, and moved to Australia to do my master's in public health policy there. And I was having a wonderful time living in Australia, and ultimately decided to stay for another few years. I had a career decision at that point, whether or not I would stay in academia or do something different. And again, I was feeling that disconnect that was all looking in the past versus looking to the future.
Okay.
And I decided to stay in Australia, but took a job at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a consultant. And so that was a nice bridge into what I'm doing now. And then I moved back to the United States after 4 years in Australia. And this is where I started learning and practicing lean. I took a role at the Stanford Children's Hospital, and I was there for almost 6 years. And really my lean journey really started with the hospital there. Then I took another role at another healthcare organization, and from there started my own consulting practice so I really could have a broader impact, and had an opportunity to move to Japan for 1.5 years as well. So that's sort of the long yet short version. And but there's some commonality across all of them, but I would never ever have thought that I'm doing what I'm doing today when I graduated from university. So I think what a takeaway from that is just to knowing that things will move. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And don't be nervous to can't see the future, right? Our young professional is so anxious today because they can't see how things gonna work in the future. It's a great point of view. Let me explore along the journey. There was some activity or some projects that you be involved that you learned the most. I know that's a lot of things that's gonna bring here today, but there is some more important for you. And what is the big learning for this activity project?
So it is a big question, because there are, at all different stages of my career, there were important projects that I was involved in that taught me many things. But looking back on it, to choose one, I would say was while I was at the Stanford Children's Hospital. I was working, it was about my last year working there, and I was supporting the Pediatric Cancer Center. And this was part of a journey for me where I had moved, and we all had shifted from being the process improvement experts who would go in and like come up with great ideas and implement the change. We had shifted our role into more of teachers and coaches. And I was working with the Cancer Center over the course of a year. And we really made some impactful, I helped support them to make some impactful changes that really had a dramatic impact on these young children who had cancer and who were having to come back to the outpatient cancer treatment center multiple times a week. And it was very rewarding from a human perspective. And I also was very rewarding from the type of role that I was in, which was helping other people be the problem solvers and put in place sustainable change. So that was one of the more impactful roles. Of course, there's other ones as well.
Great. Talking about here now from more of your studies, how did you choose your graduation, your first degree? How that your process? Your parents work with some kind of related to that? How was your decision?
So that's a good question. I always have been drawn to both like science and then social science and humanities. And when I got to Stanford, it became clear to me that while I was good at science and math, I was not at the caliber of mathematics for that level. And my original idea that I would be majoring in physics was quickly, I realized that was not the course for me. And I discovered there was a focus at Stanford at the time, or it still is, it's one of the most popular majors, called human biology. And it's a partially, you almost get to create your own major, your focus. So it's half science, like the biological sciences, and half the social sciences. And you take a foundation year, and then you get to choose your own focus. And so it was a really nice mix for me of the science side and the social science. And it's what led me to be really interested in healthcare policy, and actually got me on the trajectory to working in healthcare for so many years.
Okay, talking about the networking,
Mm.
how can you see that on your own perspective? And it's nice to hear from a professional that have a lot of experience in other countries. And how did you make to nurture your own network? You have some methods, some kind of tools. How can you see that?
So I have always believed very strongly in the power and importance of human connection, and relationships has been something that I have cultivated and maintained always. It's just part of who I am. So this hasn't been something I have had to force myself to do. And it is something I have always recommended that people at all levels of their career really put a priority towards. And it needs to be authentic to yourself, but to reach out and stay connected. So for example, when I was working at Stanford Children's Hospital, I was also mentoring current undergraduates at the university. And my number one recommendation was to stay connected with their professors, because they may need their professors later on when they're applying for graduate school or for something else, and to have to not be like 5 years later asking for a recommendation. It doesn't have to be keeping in great touch, but connecting every once in a while with an update of their career or what's happening. And that's played through for me throughout. The reason I believe strongly that one of the reasons that I received the Fulbright was because I went out and I made connections with professors in Australia before I applied. And subsequently, it's been continuing to build relationships and connect with people, but from an authentic, real place.
Okay.
And that's why I'm really excited to participate in this session with you, because I really feel like the power of networks is really important. And it's also really important to hear other people's career journeys. So informational interviews, going to ask people about their careers and what decisions they made can be really helpful, and also can establish a relationship with you and that person as well.
Yeah, I'm a big believer on that too, because I was speaking with Katie before the interview begins, and I just telling her the why of Carreira Talks, of why of the name, and I truly believe that we have to talk about careers with everybody. At on the party, family parties on the weekends, everywhere. It's a good place to learn from others, to learn from others' decisions. Just ask for the people to talk with them. It's a big deal for me. Katie said yes to this interview. It's a great example how people want to help other people.
Yes.
I'm keep repeating that from my audience, because I'm actually believe on that. Great insights. Let's talk about decisions. What's your big decision? How was your decision process, your decision making for that? I guess there was on that decision that you spoke the last minutes about academic way, or the market, or there is a bigger one?
So I feel like there were two major, well, really three, but sort of probably three big decision points in my career. I'll talk about the first and maybe the last, because so the first was, it was really hard. They were hard decisions for me, but it was important to listen to what was going on in here.
Okay.
So the first was the decision to try a profession outside of academia. I'd invested at that point, oh my gosh, 8 years. I can't recall quick at that point, maybe 7 or 8 years in academia, having done both research in, from university, I did research, and then my research at the UCSF, and then at Sydney University. And there was part of me that was really enjoyed that, but I didn't feel like I had my passionate research project, and that there were some elements of the work that wasn't feeling fulfilling to me. And so I went through a process, and I'm having to think now about what was it, but it wasn't immediately obvious what the next step was. But I knew that I had friends who worked in consulting, and it seemed like that would be a interesting career opportunity to try to see how it fit for me. And I started doing informational interviews and talked to people who worked in that space and decided to interview. And I also wanted to stay in Australia, so I had that constraint as well. I had to find a company who would also sponsor my visa, which is always another challenge.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was a really great decision for me. I had a fabulous experience there, and it did set me on a different trajectory. And at the same time, I learned a lot as well from it. And then the other big decision was when I moved, well, the middle one, which I won't talk about so much, was when I moved back to the United States. I made a decision not to go into a major healthcare a consulting practice, but took the job internally at Stanford Children's Hospital. But because at that time I didn't want to be traveling as much, I was wanting to make an investment in reconnecting with my community and my family, and establishing my life in this area. So being on the road wasn't what I wanted. And so I thought, well, let me try what this job is. And I stayed for 6 years, and it's really took me to where I am now. And then the other major decision was when I started my consulting practice. And there were a bunch of personal factors going on for me there. But ultimately, I decided to jump into the unknown. I didn't know if I would have a successful consulting practice or what that would look like. But I knew that for me at that time in my life, I was about to have my second child. I wanted to have more flexibility and control of my schedule. And I also wanted to be having an opportunity to work in some other areas as well. So it was a big risk, but was greatly rewarded, but definitely the most, I guess, financially risky from that standpoint.
It's a interesting point that you bring it up. Intuition, the word, it's gut feeling. Do you believe this gut feeling? It's like a muscle that we need to exercise along the way.
So I would frame it differently. People often say, "Oh, it's a gut feeling." It's just, but for me, it's about creating awareness for yourself about what's important here, and paying attention to that, and not and asking yourself some challenging questions about what's important for me. What's my purpose? What are the things that I've enjoyed? What are the things I haven't enjoyed? Where do I want to grow? What are some things I need to learn? Who do I want to work with? What type of organization do I want to be? And answering those questions for yourself creates that awareness as well. So you could call that a gut feeling, but I like to think of it as more intentional and purposeful.
And it's important to ask these questions, because the answers just don't just came up on your head. Especially with young professionals, we need to spend time thinking about your career, about your plans. I guess this moment of coronavirus, it's a great opportunity to take a time and reflect all of your steps to get here, and what can be the next one.
You actually just reminded me of something. So, this is a great opportunity for people to take some time and be reflective and broaden your network. So like when I moved back from Australia to the United States, that was another big decision point for me. Moving countries was a good opportunity to think about what next step did I really want to take for my career. And I came back and I spent several months reaching out to people, taking them out to lunch or a coffee, which I know we can't do right now, but it could be done virtually, and asking them about their career, the same thing that we're doing here, and learning more about their profession and what they do. And it allowed me to hear and think about of their experience and think about, oh, would that be interesting to me? So it wasn't asking people for jobs. It was asking for them, just like this conversation. What do you do? What's your experience? What do you think? And I found that was tremendously helpful for me. And I ended up working for one of those people. So yeah, so things can come out of it as well.
Yeah. It's a good way to relationships with the people at the market, but also at your company. I always say that to the people around me, because I need to bring or build my network. So I gonna ask you for some boss, some leader at my company to have lunch or coffee, and what I could say to them, and they came up to me asking about, can I say about a feedback about my work, and I always say, watch out what you're asking, because if someone that's not close to you and don't work with you, if you ask some feedback, they couldn't say anything about you. So the better way is ask for the journey, ask for their career, the decisions, and you're gonna learn a lot, and also you're gonna have building a relationship with this kind of
Yes.
professional. It's a great point.
Yes. I would say too, to build on what you said, Victor, is not just go in saying, tell me about your career, but having maybe 2 or 3 open-ended questions. So don't not something that could be answered yes or no, but that helps provide focus. So like you had put together some questions for us as well. And so that's very helpful. And to send it to the person in advance saying, put the context of, this is what I'm trying to make some decisions on or explore. I'd
Yeah.
really like to talk with you about how you made some tough career decisions, and whatever it is, but it helps provide some focus, because now I realize when people ask me for informational interviews, if it's just like, tell me your entire career story, well, I don't know where to focus it, because I have 25 years of experience at this point, and so how can I be most helpful and tell stories and experiences that will be meaningful to that particular person?
Yeah, in a easy way, you can ask about market, or ask about the future of work, of new technologies, about the position of your own company to the market, things like that. It's more easy, and also can bring a good relationship with leaders. So we're talking about leadership. I'll ask you something about that. For the people who are not leaders, who are not in a whole of leaders, how can they work or behavior as a leader in the day-to-day at the office? You have some tip for them?
Yes, I absolutely. So I don't see leaders as being only people who have official roles of authority or management seniority. We can have leaders at all levels. In fact, the book that I am publishing in a few months in July 2020 is called Learning to Lead and Leading to Learn, because we're always learning how to lead, even when you're the most top CEO. So I would say it's about also leading with influence, even if you do not have any direct reports. How do you help people understand the direction of where we need to go as an organization or as a team? And then how do you help other people think more deeply or solve problems, or how do you work together? And then how are you always looking at how you're improving yourself? So in the same things that we've been talking about here. So leading with influence is tremendously important. And it's actually what helps bring you up to those next levels in your organization too, for being able to actually demonstrate that you have management and leadership capabilities and for those types of roles. So yeah, leadership at all levels, and even if you're in a younger part of your career, is very, very important.
We also can lead your process, responsible for a process or for activity. You
Yes, so
You should
ownership.
lead this activity.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's what yes, you're taking ownership and responsibility for your work. And that also demonstrates your leadership capabilities. So you're able to bring something forward and own it and develop it and have positive outcomes.
Yeah. The next topic on career development, I want to explore a theme that you and me are so passionate about, that is lean management. And I want to ask you to define lean thinking for our audience. They don't know anything about it. How this approach can be useful for career development on your perspective?
So, I think that's great. I think it's hard to sum up what lean thinking is in one short phrase, because there's so much that's included in it. But at its essence, to me, I think it comes down to, actually, I'm showing a pen. I want to see which way is it.
It's not a fair question, sorry.
There's a pen from Toyota, and it says "Good thinking, good product." And to me, that sums up a lot of what it is. Is Toyota, which is where the researchers who ultimately coined the term lean, they were studying them, and Toyota puts its emphasis on developing people, on developing thinking first and foremost in service of developing good products. And to me, we need to hold both together. What's the value we're creating for our customers, but more importantly, how are we developing people's thinking capabilities? And that there's so many tools and structures that can support that. But how do we define value? What's the target? And how do we develop people's capabilities to get there? And so lean thinking in my perspective is just getting better at doing those things, and to do the plan in its simplest form, the plan, do, study, adjust cycle, and doing that as part of a daily routine. And you also asked about how do you then apply it to career development. And I think that absolutely, I actually teach several workshops and coach people on how to use the same structures that we have that support plan, do, study, adjust cycles, either A3 thinking, which is another type of, it's a format of making your thinking visible on one piece of paper. But for understanding what is my target. So it's the same thing. Don't even worry about tools. It's the same thinking process. Why am I thinking about my career right now? Why is this important? What is my target? What do I want to be achieving? Where do things stand right now? Okay, what are the things that are the gap between where I am today and where I want to be? What are all the things getting in my way? And then putting in place some actions. And then what am I learning from that? And what am I discovering about myself, and what next steps do I need to take? So it's the same thinking can be applied at the personal level, at the career level, or organizational problem solving level, or a strategy. You mentioned earlier to me, Hoshin Kanri, and strategy to plan. It all gets back to that fundamental thinking process though.
Awesome. I love A3 tool. We also make a video on our YouTube channel about the A3, explaining how it works for the audience. And the thing that works most for me on the A3 to career perspective is have awareness that all the things that you need to improve on your career, but also have a good awareness on the root cause of these things. You know, if you have some difficulty to speak in public, what is the root cause of that? It's the same that you can apply the A3 on the process. What you're gonna fix to fix the process, the root cause. But in career, I see the same way. So it's a good way for me how to apply A3 on a career.
That's great. I can send you the link to some articles I've written about how I've done using A3 thinking for personal improvement and development, which could be perfectly applied for the same thinking for using.
Awesome. We're gonna put on the description of the video.
Yeah, I'll send you the links to that. Yeah.
So the next question, it's about skills. So what do you value the most on the people on the beginning of the career? What's the best skills and behaviors that people could invest time and energy to develop on the beginning of career?
So I would, there's so many, but I think it's less of a skill and more of a quality that they took on as my managers and as my leaders, which was really taking on the core desire to help me grow and learn. So, and giving me opportunities to stretch and go into that. For example, the professor that I worked for was an amazing role model for me. She, this is my very first professional career at the university doing research. She gave me the opportunity to be the first author on an academic paper that was published. She gave me the opportunity to go to conferences and present our research findings. She could have said, oh no, I need to be the one who's out in front on all these things. But instead, for herself, she knew she didn't need to establish that anymore. It was about growing me and giving me the opportunities. And I'm really forever grateful for her, because I also think that those experiences then allowed me to be a better candidate for, you know, the Fulbright scholarship and other things. But to me, that's the most important quality. And I have worked with other bosses who've done the same thing for me as well, at the Stanford Children's Hospital and the other healthcare organization I worked for, who really gave me opportunities to stretch up to a higher level. And also without with also helping me learn the right skills. So not failing, so not just throwing me into the deep end of the pool when I didn't know how to swim, but giving me opportunities for development that stretched me, and also gave me the support by helping me learn how to write an academic article, or letting me go shadow them at some executive meeting so that I could see how those things went. And so to me, that's the most important skill. And that's really to me, the essence of what learning to lead and then the leading to learn is. So how do you, when you become a more senior leader, help other people learn and give them those opportunities? And to me, that's the number one skill of leaders, is not holding on too tight to them having to be in the spotlight, but how do you develop and hold up other people?
Okay, it's a good point that I will connect to the next question about mentors, coaches. How do you see this kind of help of external people on different point of view on your own career? What's the importance of this for you?
Absolutely. So, you know, I've had people who were more in a mentorship role, especially when I was, well, at all points. I still have some people who are in that mentorship role where they're maybe a little more senior than me, or has more years of experience, and they have been able to share their experiences with me and help me understand sort of opportunities for growth. There have been people who've been more in a coaching role, so maybe not a mentor per se, but really helping me think and develop. And then there have been people who have just been excellent managers who have given me those opportunities to grow and develop as well. And they may be coaching me, but they may not be there are people who have had a role called coach, and then people who've been in a manager coaching role as well. And all of those people have been tremendously helpful. And then I also find that having peers, people who are your colleagues or your friends, who can help share and support and give you feedback and brainstorm and play some of that coaching and mentorship for you. And that even today, this is so helpful for me to have those people that I can, who are happy to help me and think through things.
Yeah, it's important to have the opinion of other people's, but not just leaders, not just bosses. Like a 360 point of view. So it's important to invest energy on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, personal marketing. How do you see this topic? It's here in Brazil, it's a polemic topic because some people like, some people dislike. uh, and I want to see, I want to hear your opinion of that, the importance, and how do you treat this topic on your own career?
Yeah, and so that's a really great question. I like to think of it, even though it is, I guess, marketing in the true sense of it, which is you're getting your ideas out and you're creating public awareness for your thoughts and your ideas and what you're contributing. But I like to think of it as connecting, being more authentic. So if you're marketing just to market, that has a different purpose. I have always, first and foremost, wanted to connect with people and share ideas and help. And if I like, so what I post on LinkedIn, and yes, sometimes it's spreading word and information about my book or, a webinar or a workshop that I'm leading. But more importantly, I want to help by contributing to the greater world thinking. And if I'm really authentic to that, and I think stick true to that, that comes through. And so yes, on one hand, it could be considered marketing, but I don't see it as marketing as such as contributing to my community. So for example, when we moved to Japan, it was for my husband's job at the beginning of 2015. We lived there for 15 months. As a lean practitioner and consultant, I was like, wow, this is a really amazing opportunity. I want to start writing a blog and sharing what I'm learning with other people. Yes, it had the added benefit of creating greater awareness of who I was and my, I guess you could call it, thought leadership. But it came from a genuine place of wanting to engage with a broader community and share thinking and ideas. And I think that the audience knows that when you're being authentic to yourself and you're authentic for your reason behind it. And so I say, do it, be part of the broader, conversation, put your thinking out there, share. There's so many great platforms and ways to do that now with LinkedIn and with Twitter and, what you're doing. It's really exciting that the world can be so small, even though it's so large.
It's so great that when you make genuine value for the other one. Some people see marketing as a bad word, but it's so important. You say so well. We need to bring value behind our message with content. And when I started to write on LinkedIn about topics that why I was involved and express my opinion on that topic, is the market started to recognize me as a professional, because before I do that, the people who know me just in the company, the company know me, but the market know. I see as an important things to the young professionals to establish on the market who they are as a professional, not as a part of the company.
Not as an employee, but as a yes.
Something more. You are a professional,
Yes.
but with content, with authenticity. It's not a superficial thing that you just put in there some kind of stuff. So it's important point of view. So opinion. I want to you share your perspective of the future of the work. I know it's hard to say how we're gonna work in the future, but I want to your perspective as so many years professional. You have a great experience. Can you share with us what can we expect?
Well, I can't predict the future in the same way that 20 plus years ago when I was starting my career, I would never have predicted that I'm doing what I am now. But so I would say that just start with genuine curiosity, be willing to take some risks and explore other things that you might not have thought of before, and ask a lot of questions. And in doing that, you'll be able to navigate towards whatever future. I mean, we have this pandemic now. Who would have expected that the entire world, except for essential services, would be working from their homes, and we have had to make a major pivot and deal with a lot of changes in our world. So we don't know what the future has, but if we can be curious, if we can take some risks, and we can ask questions, we're going to be able to navigate and figure our way out. So I'd say that would be my best advice to people.
Okay, the closing of our interview. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give yourself when you started your first job?
Yeah, it goes back really to what I just said, that don't be too tied to the path you thought you were going to go on. So that's great. Go along it, learn and discover and pay attention. You know, this goes back to our earlier conversation. Pay attention to what's happening in here. And if things are continuing to go along the path that you thought, great, keep on the path, but be open to exploring other things as well, and pay attention to that inner voice and ask yourself those questions. I think I knew that back then, but you know, I was really tied to that. I was going to be an academic professor and have my PhD, and you know, things change, and that's okay. And we learn and discover things about ourselves. I'm actually going to get, so I talked about me having lots of darumas. You're in my daruma room, and I'll share with you what a daruma is. But this is a daruma.
Wow, it's a big one.
That's a big one. This is a big one. This is big. It's bigger than my head. And there's a saying in Japan that says, it's a proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And I really think that is part of what being on a career journey is all about as well. There are going to be things that go great, and there are things that can be time when you knock over, you're not sure what's going on, but how can you get back up and keep trying? And so a daruma is a visual representation of that proverb. And when you have a goal, you fill in the left eye. The monks put a little dot here. I still haven't figured out this one yet. And then when you achieve your goal, you fill in the other eye, and it's weighted at the bottom. So if it gets knocked down, you can't see it, but it'll write itself back up. And so persevere, be willing to fail, get back up and keep trying, but it's all about learning. And so how do you learn and move forward and keep going? So that would be my biggest advice for all your listeners. And to know that, you know, the journey continues. I mean, who knows where I'll be in 20 years?
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Where can we find some more information about your book? Do you have some link?
Yes.
To the pre-order?
There's two, well, you can always go to my website, which is kbjanderson.com, and all links to everything there. The book is called Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. And there's a URL for the book there. So, just learning to lead, leading to learn.com. And on Amazon is where the book can be ordered. The pre-order is up now for both the paperback and the ebook, the Kindle ebook. Although I'm not sure in Brazil, there's some of the regions outside of the US aren't doing the pre-order right now, but it will be available in July. So.
Okay. I'll get the links with you, and I put on this description of the video.
That's great. And I'll send you some links too for some of the resources that your audience might enjoy based on conversation.
Awesome. Katie, I want to thank you a lot for your attention, and thank you, and see you next time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out. It's the same. It's great. I really appreciate it. And I'm so happy to get to know you too, Victor.
Opa, obrigado por ter visto esse vídeo até aqui, espero que ele tenha sido útil para você de alguma forma. Se você quiser continuar essa jornada de evolução, da forma como você faz gestão da tua própria carreira, dá uma olhada nesse mini curso aqui embaixo. É um mini curso de personal branding, de gestão estratégica de carreiras, onde eu compartilho com vocês os principais insights que eu tive numa formação em branding lá no High University. São 5 tópicos ao longo de 3 aulas, mais de 1h30 de conteúdo em vídeo, tem material de apoio, recomendações de estudo, tudo gratuito para vocês, fiz com bastante carinho e tenho certeza que vai te ajudar na tua evolução como profissional. Se você quiser também manter contato com a gente em outras redes sociais, aqui embaixo você nos encontra tanto no Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn e podcasts também. Não se esqueça de se inscrever aqui no canal, clicando aqui embaixo na minha foto, assim você fica sabendo quando os novos vídeos forem publicados. Vai lá no mini curso, te espero lá dentro pra gente continuar junto essa jornada de evolução. Um abraço!